What's going on, everybody? Today is Wednesday, May 28th, and we are here to talk about the finale of Survivor 48, the final five, as it were, the final five, four, and three. Um, and I do believe we owe somebody an apology. I did make a TikTok video about this already, but I think we might owe Kyle an apology because he gave a speech in his final tribal council, and I believe is his closing words, where he talks about how he's such a well-rounded player, and he's good at kind of all these different aspects of the game, and I do agree with it. I always thought that Kyle, I believe we said early on that there's always one of the season of like if you're gonna make a Survivor play in our lab, it's this guy,
Mhm.
and I felt like Kyle was maybe that this season. And I thought all along that he was probably the best player, that he was just making the fatal mistake that he was willing to sit next to Joe, and it turns out not a mistake at all. And so now I feel like a lot of the other stuff that he did throughout the game is should probably be looked at in a different context and probably more favorably.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I definitely think Kyle was deserving of the win there. Um, we'd been on him most of the season until we kind of got on his case towards the end, and I think we were fed up along with a lot of other people that like not much was happening. So I think we maybe, along with the rest of the Survivor community, kind of were a little harsh on him. But I mean, ultimately, like that move, his game winning move, right, is voting out Shaheen, kind of fooling Joe. And that move
Hmm.
only works, I think, if he sits next to Joe at the end, right? Like this is only a big game winning move if Joe is there, right? Like I don't necessarily know if it holds the same weight if like Joe just gets voted out by the stragglers like after that or something. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, because his big thing at the end when he's kind of making his case is like, why would you vote for this guy? We hoodwinked him. You know what I mean? Like it was basically, which is a great case, right? Like if you're gonna like sit next to, like, you shouldn't vote for either of these two people because they played the same game. That's not a reason why you shouldn't vote for them, but they played the same game, so therefore they were both hoodwinked. They were both fooled by the same move. So I'm the one that's left there, and we kind of like criticized that move when he did it because it didn't really make, we didn't feel like it made a lot of sense to do that when you could just take out Joe to begin with. I would argue that like he was in a win-win there. Oh, like this is hindsight, obviously, but like he's in a win-win there because if he takes Joe out there, he probably wins, and if he takes Shaheen out there, we know he wins, right?
Hmm.
So like, I guess ultimately it maybe didn't matter as much. I think taking Shaheen out there, he probably made a stronger case at Ponderosa for him than Joe would have. So that probably helped, and obviously Camilla, the anti Maria, as it were.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Kyle definitely deserving of the win. We were just kind of like, well, if no one's gonna do anything, I guess it should be Joe, at some point. But I think Kyle definitely deserved it. I would probably put him somewhere in the middle as far as winners go. I think
Yeah.
he's average to slightly above average winner, somewhere in the around
Well, I've seen a lot of people
20
ranking
20.
him against like other new era winners.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I do agree. I don't think anybody from the new era has really crested kind of that. It's just the way Survivor is now. Everything is, uh, everything flows so freely. I think it's really hard to play like a really dominant game that would get you into like a top 10 of all time kind of,
Mm.
even like the debate of that. I think that extends into the teens. Um, but I do agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think that the Shaheen vote and really the explanation of Final Tribal Council, to me, like this is where he wins the game. Where you're right, it is perfect. Like you can't ask for a better setup if you're him. Where Eva, it's somebody who probably was going to struggle to come up with, hey, what's a strategic move that you like really did that it's something that set you apart, right? Because there was so much of the game being played together, and for her to say something like the Shaheen vote when she had the complete wrong read, and he's able to jump in and say, actually, so what she thinks is her very best move is something that was completely fabricated by me and actually worked to her detriment. And you can see Eva, like the life kind of comes
Hmm.
out of her face, and it's hilarious to me that, not to dunk on Eva even more than everyone already has, but it's hilarious to me that like that happened, and then when the votes are coming through for Kyle, she looks absolutely floored. I don't know if she thought Joe would win, and I don't know, but like as the votes start coming in for Kyle, she looks shocked,
Hmm.
and
I thought
I
it was
think
going to
she's
be.
lucky to have come in second. That's what shocked
That's
me.
exactly what I said before they read the votes. I said to Alyssa, I said this is going to be 5-2 to 1, but I thought it was going to be Kyle, Joe, Eva. It was 5-2 to
Yeah,
1, Kyle, Eva, Joe, and I was like, well, I was one vote off, I guess, but like, still, I don't know. I can't believe she
yeah,
got two. Not to dunk on
yeah.
her
That
even more, but
that was a hilarious moment for Stan Twitter. It Stan Twitter to me, it feels it's very similar to like astrology, and where it's very funny when it contradicts itself. Of like Mary and Star are two of the people that were stand harder than really anybody, and all those same people were hating Eva the entire season, and then those two are the two Eva votes,
well, it comes
and
around. It like that's like a little like karma, like where it come like it doesn't make any sense to like stand someone that hard and to go that hard against somebody else that like you're just gonna get dunked on at some point eventually, whether it be by luck or just like sheer it, like lack of logic, I guess. But like
yeah,
it was a good moment to see that because like I don't really get the Eva hate. I liked watching her play. I think towards the end I was like I saw some people say that like she was using her autism like trying to weaponize it. And I was like that is absolutely not the case. But like I don't know. I think that I'm glad they cast her and I'm glad that I feel like she had a good story arc and she was very complimentary to Joe's character, which, not to jump super into Survivor 50 right away, but like, I cannot believe that Joe is on that season. Like, not to, like, I'm like, not trying to dunk on anyone, but like, he is someone whose like story is absolutely told. Like,
right,
what else
yeah.
could he provide to another season? Like, this is the guy, like, his story is complete.
Yeah, he even says in the after show that he thanked, I think it was Eva or production or both, for allowing the world to like see the real him, I think
Mm-hmm.
is what he said. Because yeah, obviously, he's a firefighter, he's a dad, there's a lot of tough exterior there. um but yeah, I mean, he's a guy who has like a gentle heart. He's like Daenerys Targaryen.
Yeah.
And he yeah, I agree. I thought that, he's his character, not a character that's being shown. It's like the internal character of a
Mm-hmm.
person is it's genuine, and it's, he's definitely a great guy. Um and yeah, this stuff with Eva, I think that people, so there's the difference between like hate and not really finding somebody, or like I guess disliking them in a way that like you don't find them rootable. Like that was kind of where I was kind of just over Eva by the end, where I felt like she got taken on so many rewards. I mean, she got taken again in
But
today,
that's
and
weird. But it was like by different people though.
right, and I don't know. Yeah, and like so, okay, Camilla taking her, there wasn't really any kind of explanation, and I don't see, I don't need to see the logic, I guess, really, but um yeah, I mean, it's this thing where every week she's going on rewards, she's eating. She doesn't really have to come up with any of the strategy, and she still gets to go all the way to the end. And even after all of that is kind of like, I would say she had a pretty easy road, if I'm being honest. And even then she had multiple, and I know that they're like autistic episodes, but I think it's just it's tough to see everybody else struggle in a certain way, and then for her to not struggle in that same way, but then to kind of, I would say, like, break down harder than others, I
Hmm.
guess. Like, the fire challenge, she has a complete freak out.
Yeah.
And when she's winning and it's just her fire goes down a little bit, and she really comes out of the moment entirely.
Hmm.
And I think that it's easy for an outside observer to say that, yeah, to have like an Eva fatigue, I guess you could say, but like, I don't think that she was hamming any aspect of it up. I think it was all genuine, and
Oh
I think
yeah,
that's the point you're making.
for sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Is just like fatigue from her being on the like season, I guess, like as a player. And I think that comes from the fact that like her arc was more of a line that like it there was no like change in her in the perception
Yeah,
of her from the beginning to the end, right? And like oh, like Jeff is the facilitator of a lot of this
yeah.
too.
A lot of this is Jeff's fault.
Yeah,
He loved that he put her on.
yeah, and like I think a lot of people have misdirected anger at her when they should be angry at Jeff,
Yep.
and then they're also angry at Jeff for other reasons that like I'm like I don't know. People are just all over the place, but like I don't know. It seems to me from this Survivor 50 cast list that we'll get into a little later that like this was very much a production just picks their favorites type of cast, and
Hmm.
I don't for a season that is supposedly all about the fans. Like I don't think they took who to cast into that much of account. Like there are some people in there that definitely needed to be on there, and if they missed, then like Survivor, the community would be very outraged. But everyone
Hmm.
else is just kind of like people they like. So I don't know. I find that ironic.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, Joe, to kind of we kind of did pivot to Joe there a little bit.
Yeah.
I I think that he like I said, stand up guy. I mean, in his exit press, he's really taking it on the nose or on the chin. Well, I guess both, but I believe the saying is taking it on the chin.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think a lot of people pose the question of like, hey, it kind of seemed like if you just got there, you would win, and you got there and you didn't win, and what's that like? And it's a shitty question.
Yeah.
It's not a poor question because it is, the one that's on everybody's mind, but like, how did that happen? And yeah, I think for him, I don't know, I think it maybe lacked the exclamation point that we've seen some people win with that kind of game in the past. Like, uh to me, like Rachel, I mean, in 47 is a decent example of like somebody who really dominates the challenges and the physical aspect of the game. Like, she won out. Like Joe, he won all these immunities, and it is very impressive, but it's especially impressive if you really need it. And it turns out he might not have actually really needed it, because there were a few different times where he was available to be voted out by Kyle earlier this season, and even in like at the end he gets taken to the final three. Like that to me, I was like, man, this is going to look really terrible for Kyle when he loses. And the fact that he doesn't, like, I wasn't even in that headspace as he was making that call, but yeah, the fact that he could take Joe to the end and Joe gets one vote. I know people view that as maybe like neutralizing Joe a little bit, but you can't neutralize someone to the extent of like the where the gap between them is built. Like, that was already present.
Yeah. Not to assume like what the jury was thinking and why they chose Kyle over Joe, but like it could have been that they were feeling the same way that we were watching the show and on the podcast. Is that like you never want to vote to give someone $1 million who's sitting there at the end, and you're just like, well, I guess it has to be him. It's kind of how
Mm-hmm.
we felt. Like no one's gonna like take him out at some point. Like, do you not take him out because they're like everyone on the season is dumb, or do you not take him out because he's truly not a threat? Or do you
Right.
not take him out because the people you're sending to the jury don't respect him as a player? Like at some point, like that's kind of like a conglomeration of, I think, of how we were feeling. Is like, well, I guess it has to be Joe because nobody else is doing anything. And like when you really sit down and vote, like think about who you want to vote to give $1 million, like the jury's reaction at the end of every vote, like leading up to that, I think said it all when they were all kind of just like, how do you not take this guy out again? But then I think they go back and like, well, he's not doing anything either. So like, who do we want to vote to win? And when Kyle made that, I truly wonder how many people had their mind either swayed or changed or went into it open minded to Kyle based on that final tribal, or like how much work Shaheen and Camilla did behind the scenes, because like I don't know. Everyone felt like as they were leaving that he was the guy to get out, but I think as you sit on it for a little bit, you're like, well, why? If we all felt that and no one was doing it, like maybe he didn't like play the game we thought he did. I guess I don't know. It's like a weird mesh of all those feelings together potentially.
Yeah, and I do think that the whole we kind of mentioned it already, but the discussion around the Shaheen vote, I think is that was the biggest thing for him, I think, because a lot of people when people like Chrissy that are as they're going out of the game, they're like, you got to get rid of the big strong people, the Davids and the Joes of the world. Um, I think when she's saying that, like, yes, okay, it implies that Joe is in a position of power, but you got to look at who she would be talking to, right? She's trying to flip people. Like, Kyle is the kind of person that she's talking to in that moment. She's posing it to like the general group, but she's posing that question to Kyle. And I think like Joe getting deeper and deeper, I think the jury probably viewed it the same way as us, as like there's just a level of passivity here that there I guess Kyle's just fine with Joe winning the game. And then I think that it was a pretty boring final tribal. There wasn't a ton that happened other than this. Like this was pretty much the only thing like even interesting or like strategy wise really that was worth note, I thought. But the fact that Kyle can bring this out, I think it just flips it. It's one of those things that as soon as you hear it, it completely changes your opinion, and you can't believe you ever thought this other thing, and like this new reality. This is all that makes any sense is the fact that he could pull off this move and just snow Joe and Eva so hard. I think everyone's like, oh shit, that just means that all along Kyle was in control. And I think that like this is something that I talk about every time that we talk about winners really is like my number one thing is always who imposed their will on the game the most. And even making quote unquote like incorrect decisions, I still don't think is as much of a negative as the positive of you directing the game and whatever you say goes. And I think that when you can sit at Final Tribal Council and the other two people's jaws are like pretty much on the floor because you were making moves that they had no idea about, like you're just impacting the game on a different level. And I think that it's if you take that answer out, like I think Kyle would always find a way to bring up that him and Camilla had this secret deal, but we said all season like is it really that impactful like this they keep talking about their secret alliance and we're like are they really doing that much and I feel like without this answer if they're just like yeah we had this secret alliance they'd be like great
Right.
how did you use that to benefit you. This is the like oh if he has that good of an example to pull from think of all the things that they've been doing but really that's like just the one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's just an interesting. I just feel like, and maybe this is how Kyle has set it up the entire way, was like I feel as though like the cards fell perfectly for him to use this alliance. Like he in this way to win the game. Like he had to sit next to Joe and Eva at the end, and they had to think that this one move like was their thing, and like for him to be either thinking of that like when they were making that move with Shaheen or what they were planning for from like the merge, like that is really impressive to me that he could come up with a plan like that and be able to execute it and to have it equally be Camilla's plan, and whoever was going to sit at the end was going to be able to use that against Joe and Eva. Like, I don't know how much of that he imposed or how much of that, like, it just ended up happening to work that way. But I don't know. I think it's still impressive regardless, to be honest. But,
Yeah, I think the other move that it did not get mentioned the entire Final Tribal Council. I think the David move is also like probably Kyle's. I think in terms of execution, Mark.
I don't know.
I think in terms of execution, which Shaheen, it was like high level execution, but we questioned the motivation. I think in terms of motivation and execution, I think the best move of the season is Kyle getting rid of David,
Mm-hmm.
because you have an alliance based on the honor and the integrity and all that shit, and you got some of the most loyal people in their own minds
Mm-hmm.
to turn on Joe or to turn on David in a situation where David was right, and all the reason he went home was because he was right about Kyle, and Kyle
Mm-hmm.
said, he wants to get rid of Camilla. I can't have that. Like, and the motivation is like this secret alliance is like I need Camilla to keep going in this game, right? And he's able to completely vilify David when really David, all he looks for is a straight answer out of Kyle that entire episode. And Kyle, he kind of just talks in circles
Mm-hmm.
every time that someone's like, "So why exactly don't you want this?" And he just doesn't really know what to say, but it worked. And yeah, I think that's something I would like to hear mentioned more.
Yeah, the thing is about that though, like I don't really know if that is as impactful to the jury because I don't know how much David really values that. Like he's such like a cornball that like even as how he was at Final Tribal, like he's not looking for like he asked a question about strength, right? About the challenges. How did
Yeah.
winning a challenge help you further in the game? And like when his vote out was one of, like you just said, one of the most pivotal moves of the season. And like does if Kyle says something like in regards to a different question about like the David vote, like does he really like I think he might push back on it and be like I don't think he would value it as like Shaheen you could tell like was game respect game. That was like one of the most game respect game jurors like we've seen in a while where he was like kind of egging Kyle on to be like, no, you need to like talk up how you got me out because that's what makes me want to vote for you. I don't know if David would feel the same way about that.
Yeah, I do think that yeah, the combination of all things, the Shaheen vote is better for Kyle because you're right. Shaheen is going to be that person that takes that perspective. But I do think like the David vote, explaining the David vote, like I think that could sway like the Chrissies and the Cedrics and like the people that don't really have any kind of connection to any of these main power players or any of the power structure of the season, right? They kind of were playing on the perimeter the whole time. And I think that would be, yeah, a good like peek behind the curtain of like, hey, the alliance imploded and the tree fell this way and not this way because of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a good point. The one last thing I had from from Final Tribal, and it's a touch of a dunk on Joe, but I think Kyle, he had the reveal that he was a lawyer, which seemed like it packed a punch. The Eva thing, I think I knew the Eva stuff and I forgot. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I always love when someone gives like their opinion on it is like what like Eva, she hid this and she's like wow, like if that was intentional, great job, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't intentional. And it's like, so if you say if it was intentional, that's great, what does it mean if it's just she was just being herself?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
um, but I loved when they're in the shelter and because Joe he kind of repeats the line of final travel, but it's more organic at the shelter where Eva says this and Kyle says this, and Joe goes, "I'm just a fucking fireman,"
Yeah.
and which is just funny by itself, but also I think it's a perfect encapsulation of Joe where there's just like he's true to himself and he's gonna keep his head down and work, and there's stuff happening around him that he doesn't know, and I don't know that he wants to know or he doesn't care to dig deep enough to try to find out. It's like when Eva goes to find the the safety without power, and Shauhin's like, dude, like Eva's gone. Like to me, if my alliance is like leaving, if my number one alliance is leaving camp to go look for an advantage in the middle of the night, like yeah, he gives her a chance to come clean, and she does, but I don't know. I in the moment I'd probably feel a little like I'd be slightly taken aback and be like, huh, I wonder why she didn't really want to share that one with me. But he's just like, I knew it. I trusted her. I knew it. And yeah, I think he just, it's like a ignorance is bliss sort of approach to the game, I think, for
Yeah.
Joe.
I think it's like um you 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 have one on one hand like trust but verify, which would be Shaheen in that
Hmm.
scenario. And you have Joe who is more of the mindset of like innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Where like he's not like Shaheen's gonna go after he's gonna trust his alliance, but he's gonna go and like investigate every avenue to just confirm what he's believing. Joe is
Mhm.
more like you're with me, you wouldn't be with me if you didn't want to be, and I'm not gonna go after you until you do something specifically that I can point to. Kind of like and David's kind of a mesh between those two things, right? Where like
Yeah.
he's like taking everything that could be like a grain of untruth and being like, all right, now you're guilty. Like,
Right. He almost is like the worst of both
yeah,
worlds.
right, yeah,
Which is funny because Kyle's kind of the best of those two things.
yes, yeah.
David, worst player of the season, confirmed.
David worse than
Uh,
Kyle confirmed.
yeah. On let's talk about Final Four a little bit.
Okay.
I do think we kind of just get right into it at the beginning of the Final Four where Camilla and Kyle they pretty much just tell each other like, yeah, if I win, you're going into fire. Um,
This is like the dream for most alliances, right? Is like
yeah,
this is how like when you chalk up a final duo and you're like, all right, it's the merge. We're gonna play together. It's me and you, baby. You're my number one. Like when you make that pact, you're like, it's us until the final four, and then we gotta cut the other one because if we play the same game, we can't sit next to each other. And that's like how you draw it up, right?
yeah. I think so. I think that the especially in the Final Four fire making era, I think the best you can do is just promise, hey, to get to that Final Four, and
Mm-hmm.
then I think there's decisions that you could make. It sounds like Camilla would have won if they sat next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but I don't think that Kyle's someone that you necessarily want to go up against. So I don't think Camilla did the wrong thing. Um, I guess maybe it would have made more sense to let him sit in it and not tell him until after the challenge if he won. But I don't know. I think Kyle knew better than anybody how big of a threat Camilla was. And the fact that he won that immunity, like Joe was always going to put both of them in, Eva
Mm-hmm.
was always going to put both of them in. So Camilla's only really the only person that she could convince to take her is Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he knows what she's done because he did the same thing. So I don't think that it's a mistake really
Well,
for her
that's what I mean.
to
Like
tell him.
Camilla played the same game pretty much, except from the
Yeah.
bottom,
Right.
which is more impressive, I guess. I mean, you can make an argue, you can make an argument for either one that like she's only around because Kyle, fought to keep her, and that she, you could like debate that back and forth a little bit, but I what does Kyle do if Camilla wins this? You know, like I think this logic makes the most sense if you go in against her, because only one of you can emerge then, right? And like you're ensuring that one of you wins the game that way. Like whereas you're one of you's gonna win the game the other way too, but like it might not be you if she comes out of fire. Like if you really truly think like the it seemed like Kyle kind of knew he wasn't shocked to see that everyone would have voted for Camilla. So he must have had some inkling of that. So like I don't know why you would risk putting that into someone else's hands, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that like Camilla wins that immunity. I think she's putting in Joe and Kyle.
Yeah.
And I think that from from that angle, I think she either goes toe to toe with Joe, and I think it's a similar outcome. I think she wins in a similar way to what Kyle did, and it sounds like it's maybe even more of a blowout because Mary and Star were both people that were like, oh man, if it was Camilla, we would, and they were the two Eva votes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do think that I think either way, like I don't think that Kyle and Camilla going to the end against each other and Eva also there, the like we could split votes thing. Usually, even if that's the case, you're deciding between the two of you for first. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
think there's ever been a time where there was a winning duo and then another person and that third person won because like the other two people like both got two votes or something like
Yeah.
that. Like it's
Well, that would mean
it
that
just
like
doesn't happen.
it's because that doesn't I don't necessarily know if that really can because if you I mean physically, I mean mathematically it can. But like logically, I don't know if you would ever reach that conclusion because if you have 8 jury votes and you're really worried about splitting between two people, would have to be 4 to 2 to 2 would be the win, right? Otherwise,
Hmm.
it would be 3 to 3 to 2, and the tiebreaker would go to you anyway, right?
Or I think it's probably a 4 to 3 to 1 where the two people who are the duo are the three and the one. And I think the argument is if the one vote doesn't go to that person, it probably goes to the person with three, and then it's 4-4, and then that person could be
This
the
is the
tiebreaker.
same. I'm gonna get to the same conclusion essentially
Okay,
with
yeah,
either way, where like if you're gonna tie regardless, you're not really the favorite, and you're not splitting the jury vote between the two of you being the favorites because you're
right,
not the favorites if you're tied with the third person.
yeah. Just put that person on the jury and you win outright.
Exactly. Yeah. So
So,
like I don't think there's a scenario where like logically you could have like, oh, we're me and you are the favorites. We can't sit next to each other because we're going to split the jury vote. That would imply that the third person is also the favorite.
right. That person has to be in at least second place to get that many jury votes, and then that kind of makes what they're saying. It's a paradox.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Um. Yeah. Other things from this. The fire decision was interesting because Kyle he tells everyone that he's bringing Joe, and Eva really can't fucking make this fire
Hmm.
until Joe goes and comforts her. Um. The okay. One more dunk on Eva. The when she's trying to make fire and Joe's walking up to her, she is screaming. I wrote in my notes. So I said she didn't even lose fire yet. Bullet point, like she's screaming and all.
Hmm.
She was howling,
Hmm.
and it's like nothing has happened yet. But you'd think she got stabbed in the heart. But yeah, Kyle he tells everybody he's bringing Joe. Joe sees that Eva's struggling. He's like, "Let me do this for you," which it's not your choice. Like, you think that he would say to Kyle, "Hey, can I actually make fire against Camilla instead?" And Kyle's just gonna say yes,
Yeah.
just because he asks.
Right.
He might actually, but that's still not how it works. Um, and Kyle even because of the Eva meltdown, he even floats the idea that maybe he would put himself in against Camilla.
Well, that's because he
And
doesn't want to sit next to Camilla.
Right, and
not
that's
for Eva's benefit.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah,
right. That's Joe is doing it for Eva's benefit. Kyle is
Kyle's
not.
not. Yeah.
And I actually thought the whole time until he says Joe,
Hmm.
I thought he was going to throw a curveball cuz Jeff even asks like, so what were you thinking? And I think he starts off by saying something along the lines of like, yeah, at the beginning of the day I thought this.
Hmm.
And I thought he was going to, and he kind of didn't finish the thought. And then Jeff eventually came in. He's like, "So you're gonna sit next to Joe?" I thought he was gonna say, "Actually, no. I'm Joe and Eva are both gonna sit next to each other, and I'm gonna face Camilla."
Well, that's what
So
Jeff. I wonder that part of the episode. It seemed like they cut something out of that. Like I usually don't feel that way. Usually the tribal councils are very like fluid, even though we know they're like much longer than that. But like they do a really good job of like piecing together the questions to have a flow, even if they're not all consecutive.
mhm,
I felt in that moment that they like cut some of that out because like you get to a point where Jeff goes, "All right, so uh like Camilla is gonna be the first person making fire,"
mhm,
and then they like jump to, "So congratulations to Joe for making it." Like there was
right,
something in there that like I wonder if there was a back and forth about Kyle explaining how he like debated that, like you're talking about.
right, and yeah, I wonder why they wouldn't show it if it did happen. But I did agree with you. It did feel that way. Um, I had some good notes from the fire challenge. I said I first bullet point is Eva fucking meltdown. Second bullet point Camilla
Camilla,
complaining the whole
well, it was
time.
Camilla meltdown too. They both had a meltdown.
Camilla though was like it wasn't as like Eva's that was like a meltdown. Camilla's was just like she her game is melting down in the moment, but she was just very casually complaining
Hmm.
about
Yeah,
it, which I did like. Um,
that's someone who is like I. That has happened to me before. I've seen it happen to other people where you're like uncomfortable with what's happening, so you just keep talking. And
yeah,
like that's what happened to her. She like was obviously uncomfortable or feeling awkward about like she's like probably thinking I'm on national TV right now and I can't get like I'm losing this and
yeah,
I can't get this fire. So like it's probably like all running through her head like that. So
yeah.
like
Let me start the excuse train now.
yeah, right. Which I was a little done with her by the end of that episode, just because
Hmm.
she was. I don't. I felt like I was just over the Camilla at that point. But I
Hmm.
did finally. We finally figured out why her edit was so weird, from the beginning,
Fire
which I said
loser.
from episode 2 was uh could she be the winner of the season and they don't know how to edit women, which is a fact that they don't know how to do that. Well, it just turns out that she was going to win the season and just lost fire was the edit we were
Right.
saying.
But her game was a winning game because it was her very close partner that
Right,
won the game.
exactly.
Um, but I wanted to highlight this. Jeff, as Eva's having the meltdown, and Camilla's like, "Ah, you got it, girl," which I don't know why she really does that, honestly. Um, Jeff says, "Camilla encouraging Eva in the middle of this challenge. That's Survivor 48." He says something along those lines, and like I think that sentence right there is the disconnect between Jeff and the fans, where Jeff is
Hmm.
like, "Isn't that something?
Hmm.
Like, look at what just happened," and like no one really wants this. Like, be competitive.
Hmm.
Honestly, it's $1 million. Like, I will not. I'll not say that Camilla didn't try throughout the season. She tried very hard. She played a really good game, but like in this moment, you have a chance to win your way there. The person you're playing is having a complete meltdown. Let them set themselves on fire and for fucking
Here's
pun, but like
and
let them
here's where
crash and burn.
I become, if I'm on Survivor as Camilla in that moment, a national villain. do you egg her on even further? Be like, there's no way you're doing this. I got this. Like, it's just in her ear the entire time.
I heard you fucking howling in the jungle. I knew this was
You have
mine
been
all
making
fucking
fire
day.
all day. Yeah. I've been making fires left and right. I've been sandbagging this entire time.
Just be like, and here I come, and then first spark,
Yeah.
fucking just goes up.
Like, most hated person in America that day. But, if it wins you $1 million, it wins you $1 million, right? Uh,
Yeah,
and like the other way, I was talking about that with Alyssa when we were watching. The other way to win fire is, or I guess if you win the immunity challenge, you tell Eva you're taking her, and then at final tribal put her in. But
yeah. I just
they're much
it.
they're much. I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done either of those things for the record. But it's fun to villainize myself.
Yeah, I just you're not a bad person if you don't encourage her. You're in like the
Right.
whole thing is
That's
like
the
a
right
competition
line.
for $1 million. If the person can't win the competition, they don't get the million. Like it's not you're not a bad person if you like because not encouraging her, like you said, it would be funny if you egg her on. The third option is you just say nothing and you let her keep
Which is
freaking
is
out.
the correct option, is to not say anything and to continue trying to win the challenge.
Yeah, I do think that it was a nice. It. I would have liked to see Kyle and Camilla go toe to toe at the end, but I think it was a nice wrinkle to, or maybe like a nice cap to the story where, like, if you think of some of the times where Eva struggled and Joe has had to come to her aid, like, if the first time he really it's against the rules for him to do that, he can't do it and she fails, that would be a pretty bad message, I think. So,
What do you do? What do you think Joe does if Kyle puts him and Eva in fire together?
so that was almost I almost made a video talking about that I thought that that could happen
Mm-hmm.
because
I think Joe
yeah,
might
like
abstain. He might not make fire.
yeah, it's against every fiber of his being to do both things, to get rid of Eva and to be a quitter.
Right.
And I mean, he had that thing about. So, what I actually, my tinfoil hat theory actually was going to be that uh, Joe was available to get voted out at the final five, which, yeah. And, and that he would be such an obvious target that Eva would want to play the idol on him, and he would be like, no, like, because there's a chance they'd vote you, and like, we can't risk that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is him circling all the way back to the first episode where he'd said, like, I would throw away my game for her, where it's
Mm-hmm.
like, he's not explicitly throwing it away, but like, she has the lifeline that would save them both, and he doesn't take it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I could have seen something like that. Yeah, man, if Kyle fucking put them in fire together,
there's room
oh
on
my god.
there's room on this door for both of us, Jack. No, I'll just die in the ocean.
Exactly. Yeah. He would have got a second million from I would have crowdsourced a second million for Kyle if he put those two in together.
Mm-hmm.
Or it would have been his first million cuz I guess Camilla would have won. But
Right. A
um
runners up million.
yeah. I guess yeah, final 5.
Nothing
I have a
burger.
lot of notes. Yeah, I have a lot of notes for like the stuff that happened, but nothing really did happen. I thought the most interesting part was just that Camilla won. Joe was able to be voted out, and it was just squarely on Mitch from second
Which,
one, and I don't get it.
hindsight, your hindsight
Yeah.
bias, that's exactly, everyone played it exactly how they thought they should have. Like Kyle and Camilla knew all along that they wanted to sit next to Joe and Eva, and they're like, here's a perfect opportunity to sit next to Joe and Eva.
Yeah, that's really interesting to like I think it speaks to the silent stranglehold that Kyle and Camilla had on the game because the whole question is, Mitch wants to get rid of Joe, and it's will Kyle and Camilla let that happen pretty much, where in reality, like Camilla having immunity like it should be Kyle that's getting voted, and Mitch should be like self-preservation. Like he's not even thinking of Kyle though,
Right.
and I think that it speaks to the situation that they
Well,
set up for
Mitch
themselves.
even says like throughout that day, or maybe even at, I think it was at Tribal, where he said like, my two number ones like
Yeah,
came up to me and said like, we're voting you
that
out
means you're
today.
number three.
Yeah.
For the
If you
record,
have two number ones, do you have one?
right?
But yeah, it was just the Mitch eulogy portion of the Survivor finale. Um, Mitch, thanks for playing, buddy. Take your stipend and be happy with it. I guess like he is the Jake, the
Yep.
Romeo, the person who just is so beaten down that like he never stopped fighting though. I'll give him that. Like, and that's how Jake was too, where like you just fight until you're voted, until it's you, I guess, and fight until people you put up so much of a fight that people don't want to take you any further.
Right. Yeah, and there was a big. I saw Jake in an argument with somebody because yeah, it was four people. It was the three people you just said and Owen Knight,
Oh yeah.
and it was
It's the Jake Romeo Owen memorial Mitch eulogy
yes.
portion of this
Welcome to the
run.
quartet. Um, but yeah,
That's a funny archetype, I think.
yeah. The only problem is Mitch didn't get to third place, but it was
Yeah.
it's it's just the guy who spins their fucking wheel. But Mitch, I don't know that Mitch really fits it because all those guys were like they had they had a point. They had good points at times where it was just like by the time final tribal council rolled around, the narrative was just nowhere close to where it needed to be. But as a player, they're not bad.
Mhm.
Mitch, I think it's the opposite where he still got voted out for being quote unquote a threat, despite that he was on the outside like them all along, but he also there was zero aggressiveness. Where those other guys, it was almost like I can't believe you can be this aggressive and not get voted out.
Yeah, that's true. He's the anti archetype. Yeah, he is he's interesting. He like I feel like he's like he was the voice of the community at times though. I felt where like we would just
Early.
like it's no, not the person that people rallied around. Like I feel like he was speaking for us sometimes where like he would just like walk out into the beach to like a random group of people and be like, we need to do something.
Yeah. But then, yeah, the audience hated him because they're like, "You're the guy who won't do the something."
I know. So he's interesting. He's another one where like uh I'm glad they cast him. Don't need to see him again.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And on that note, actually,
Mm-hmm.
I think that just about does it for Survivor 50. We both survived Unchains
We
again.
did.
Um, I did win Fantasy Survivor, but you had the winner. So
Was it close? I guess Camilla getting voted out kind of screwed me. Would have been close if she made it to the
no, it
finale.
was. I had way more people for
A
such
long
a
time.
long amount of time.
Yeah.
This happened last season, I think,
Hmm.
where I think you had Rachel, so it was still like I was never. It was different in that way,
Want
but
heater for picking winners.
that's true. But yeah, like I was on like such a comeback, but it was like I was down like 8 people to 6 and 7 people to 5 and like
Yeah.
6 people to 4, and it's like those small points add up to where you kind of have to be perfect at the end, and
Hmm.
yeah.
I was not.
But yeah, so I mean, this morning the cast of Survivor 50 came
That's why
out.
we're waiting to pod.
That's yep.
I wasn't in Hawaii.
Yeah, there was nobody luau in.
Yeah. I was thinking about it at
Um
the luau.
yeah. My face just got so dark cuz the screen is dark mode. All right, but I'm going to share my screen
I
here.
got a nice bright white screen up. You can see my face. My face. Nice bright white screen of the New York Post.
All right. So,
Hmm.
here we have the cast of Survivor 50. 22 people. There will be two more from Survivor 49 that obviously we don't know yet.
Hmm.
Heavy speculation as to who one of them is. Um, but I believe the way the numbers shake out is it'll be a guy and a girl from 49
That would make
in order to
sense.
stay even. So, somebody, oh, where's the fucking, uh, this
Jezebels.
person, Jezebels on Twitter created this. Thank you very much. So yeah, I figure we just go through
Hmm.
and just scale of 1 to 10 of excitement or how just generally like how satisfied you are
Hmm.
in the selection. Um and we'll like maybe do a sentence about
All
each
right. Do we
person.
want to
So,
go in order of seasons?
yeah, so if you have that up, I
I
think I'd
do.
prefer to do that. It looks like this is in alphabetical order.
Okay, yeah, we'll do it in order of seasons. Obviously, the first would be Jenna from Borneo.
Yeah, so Jenna. Okay. Um yeah, do you want to go first or me?
You can go first.
Okay, Jenna, I'd put at like I think she's like a 4 or a 5. I think it's a decent poll. Um the All-Stars game is like it kind of gets buried in the history of Survivor,
Hmm.
but I just think if you were going to go to if you're going to have this little representation from the very early seasons of Survivor,
Hmm.
I probably would have chosen a different woman,
Hmm.
but I it's not a bad pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2 to 3 here. I think, but it's not a Jenna slight. I swear, it is a casting production slight of you gotta like I don't feel that this cast as a whole. I'm probably going to say this 5 more times. I don't feel that this cast as a whole is very cohesive. I feel as though it is just a lot of people that they like to see a couple that they like would like to see again, a couple random people, and then a bunch of people from the past 3 seasons.
Yeah, it's very Game Changers like in that way where like how is Suri Fields on the same season as Haley Ford? Like that just it didn't make sense at the time. It still doesn't make sense.
Right,
Um,
and like it's just why I don't know why. Again, nothing against Jenna. I'm sure she's lovely. Uh, why would I want to see her when there are tons of other people from the late 30s and early 40s that I would rather see?
yeah.
And then maybe that's recency bias. Maybe that's me not
Yeah.
being as much of an old school Survivor fan as you. I don't know. That's how I feel though.
I'm gonna say let's say back of 4 to 5 just because I think that they
4, as it were.
yeah. Well, I just mean
I'm just
she'll
joking.
get. Um, I just they weren't gonna not have a Borneo person on here. They love to do like on the landmark seasons. They always get a Borneo person.
Hmm.
Um, and I think unless you're bringing Jervis for a third time,
Hmm.
like people really wanted Greg. I would have been fine with Greg. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like,
we're already breaking the rule about the one sentence rule.
yeah, all right.
Gosh.
So, what are you doing? Like, if you're gonna bring back someone from like that early on, like I'd much rather see like Jerry come back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like,
Well, let's get into her counterpart right now.
well, yeah, Colby.
Yeah. So, am I just gonna go first for all of them, or do you want to switch it
Uh,
at all?
Colby, I can go first for because I do know a little bit more about him. Um, okay, he's someone who this has been the take from the day that like he was leaked to be like in the late stages of casting for 50. What is he bringing that we haven't seen before? And Uh, I don't believe that. Again, same. Like, give somebody else who hasn't played. Like, it's been like so many seasons since we've had like a true tourney season, and like a lot of those people are going to be forgotten in the annals of Survivor by the time we do more returnee seasons. Like, you could have used this spot better. I don't want to see Colby again. Again, great the first couple times we saw him. Don't need it again. I'll put him
Yeah, I
as a
think
player. Like, I feel for excitement though. I would also put him in the 4-5 tier.
okay. I was gonna put him in the 2-3 and like solidly a 2. I'm almost a 1 on Colby
Okay, we
actually.
can average out in the 2-3 though. Then.
Yeah, because my thought with Colby is just that like okay, Australian Outback it's essentially Borneo. I mean, there's in terms of strategy level, it's
Yeah.
actually probably lower strategy because Richard Hatch isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Um and so like okay, he thrives there. All Stars, it's not great. And Heroes vs. Villains, I mean, there's a whole joke about like how bad he is and like how he's a shell of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is 15 years later. I just, I don't think that, I think the stuff that doesn't age, like your social ability and stuff, it's stuff that he never had. And
Yeah.
I don't know how he's going to contribute.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Jeff tried to, I don't know if you watched the video of him pulling the names out of there,
I
Ernie,
did
but like
not.
when he says he's like America's first or Survivor's first like Captain America or whatever it is, like Colby at one point very big deal, not a big deal anymore.
Yeah. Uh, Stephanie LaGrossa would be next. I can actually go first for her as well. Uh, I'll put her in the 6 to 7 tier. I think she's making a. She was on the Traders, right? And so I think she is back in like
Mm-hmm.
the uh public sphere. I don't know how much other reality TV she has done other than the Traders, or if it was just that, but or competition reality. I
I think
mean,
it's just that.
but she was on the Traders. I liked her on there. It kind of got me pumped up to see her on this cast list again. I feel like she's someone who um, is a good pull from that era. That if you're trying to fill up people from that era, like she's a good pick because she did well on the Traders as well, or she was presented well on the Traders.
Yeah, I think that she has a great 2 season arc between Palau and Guatemala. She really does. Um, I think like if she wasn't on Heroes versus Villains, Steph would probably be like she might be a 10 for me,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. But I think if you look at how that went, I can't go crazy high. I agree. I'd say she's like a 6,
Mm-hmm.
where I think that she is somebody that there was definitely some fire, and I wonder if that has kind of died down with age a little bit. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but I I don't think she's gonna win the game by any means, but I think it's from that era. I think she's a very representative player. The fact that she played 2 seasons back to back in kind of a dead spot between returnee
Mm-hmm.
seasons. Um, yeah, I think she's a good rep.
I think this is the first good cast, I would say,
Hmm.
that we've seen. Suri would be up next. You can go
Yes,
first.
Sari. Who'd you
I
say?
said
Sorry.
you can go first for Suri.
Yeah, Sari for me. Look, a theme for me with a lot of the people that are 4 and 5 time players on this list is kind of the Colby thing of like what do they bring again? Sari is the one person to me that is frozen in time. I could get Sari every season because she's so good at the game and she's fun and funny while she does it,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the people who kind of like the audience is their confidant. They're like, I love the person who will make fun of the whole tribe to confessional. And like, I'll put her at 8 or 9. I'd say she's like an 8 for me. Yeah.
I would agree with an 8. Again, another. She's a Trader's winner. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so she was.
She still got it.
She was a fan favorite on Traders for sure,
Hmm.
and she's one of my favorites on there as well. The only reason I wouldn't put her any higher than like N8 would be you need someone to carry the torch of Best to Never Win,
That's true.
and I don't like giving her so many chances.
Hey, I don't think she's making a fucking fire, so I think we're safe, actually. But
I don't like giving her too many chances. It's like Connor McDavid.
yeah,
How
that's
good can
right.
he
Yeah,
be? How good can he be if he never wins it?
yeah,
Ozzy would be next.
yeah. Ozzy for me, it's the fall from grace is legitimately crazy for Ozzy. Ozzy is like I liked Survivor and I had people that I liked. Ozzy was my first favorite player. On Cook Islands, I would during the challenge I would run around and I'd jump around on the on the furniture and I'd wear my shirt the way that he did, like over his head, and I he was just the man to me. But I think that okay, he almost won with that, right? He was a vote away from beating Yule, which is insane in retrospect. Then he comes back in Micronesia. He does pretty much the same thing, where he's like, I'm the man, and that's just it. And he goes early, and it's like, or not early, he goes ninth. And, but you can kind of forgive it because he's like, that game just worked for him, right? Then, okay, South Pacific doesn't change anything again. And just gets, I know he technically came in fourth, but he really was like 11th because he just Redemption Island his way there. And then Game Changers, he's doing the same fucking thing, and he gets like what, like 11th or 12th place, I think. Like he brings nothing new. I don't. I think he's a 1 for me.
This this may upset some people. Some of these 3-4 time players. Oh my God, there's commotion going on behind me. Some of these 3-4 time players, you could say, they never change their game. They play the same game every time. They're just like, that's what Tony would be if it didn't work.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, if Tony didn't win, we'd be like, we're fucking this guy again, but it just happens to work for him, and he's the greatest Survivor player of all time. For me, Ozzy, I have never seen him play, so I'm pretty neutral on him. I would personally put him just in the middle since I've never seen him play, like 4 or 5, but we can err on the side of
Yeah,
your
let's
opinion.
put him in the 2s.
Since I don't really have
Put him ahead of Colby.
a great opinion on him.
Yeah.
Which is the same exact thing I'm going to say about Coach. So.
Okay, I got to start for Coach. Coach, for my money, Coach is the best character in the history of Survivor. He is. I can't. Every time he's on the fucking screen, something either hilarious or outrageous, or there's even heartfelt moments at times, although they're few and far between. He is the quintessential, like, wacky guy. He's like maybe Philip Shepard. Like, him and Philip Shepard, they're in an archetype of, like, where it's complete garbage underneath them because this kind of guy flops so hard sometimes, but when it clicks, it's absolute magic. So my thing with Coach, I do love Coach, as I just said. I think one of two things is going to happen. One is he's just going to play the hits. He's kind of like older, and he's pretty online for like an older guy. And like everything is like hashtag Dragon Slayer. Like he leans into it, and I'm scared he's just gonna be like Dragon Slayer this and Samurai that, and like he's just gonna, like I said, play the hits. The other thing that I think could happen is, like, I know he's a goofy guy, but he's not a bad player. Like he came in 5th in Tocantins, and I know he got strung along a lot. But he went deep. Heroes versus villains, he tried to lean into the strategy, and I think he was just outgunned for sure against that group.
Well,
and then
he's going to be outgunned in this group.
Right, that's kind of where I'm going. Is South Pacific, he plays like a relatively dominant game in South Pacific actually, and he can't close the deal with that final tribal, and Sophie's much better at that. But yeah, I think that if he leans the strategic route, I think he's gonna get bounced early. And I think if he does the goofy thing, like part of it too is he was always like an in shape, strong guy too, and he's kind of older now. Like I don't know what he brings to the tribe phase either. I'm gonna put him. I would say like a 4 because he is a legend, but I think it might be a flop.
Gotcha. I would agree with 4. I was just gonna put him somewhere in the middle as well. I knew you liked him, but I didn't know much more about him. I gotta watch Token Chains. It's on the list of like.
Token Chains is the fact that like the fact that him and Tyson were both newbies on the same original tribe
Yeah.
is nuts.
Which
And then the
Tyson,
fact that
I'm surprised he didn't get cast for the season.
yeah, me too. I think if he wasn't on Winners of War, he's here for sure.
That's true. He's been on Twitter about being weird on Twitter about this, just about the cast, and I don't know what he's doing.
I think he's just really trying to get into the talking head space of it, and so you gotta have takes pretty much. But also, just because I mentioned Token Chains and Tyson and starting tribes, Villains Tribe, best tribe of all time.
Oh yeah.
Coach is an alumni of that.
Next
Yeah,
is
we have three people from the original Heroes tribe. Sorry, go ahead.
next is Aubrey.
Yeah, what a jump. We just skipped all the 20s.
Yeah.
Aubrey, I think if Aubrey was not on Edge of Extinction,
This is my take.
yeah, she's much higher, but like it was great and it was a divisive fucking Mike, Jesus. It was a divisive loss the first time, and so I think the Game Changers cast was perfectly warranted. Her Game Changers game it's a little quiet, but it was a really good game, and she was aligned with Suri, and she was kind of creeping into Suri territory of like, man, she's great, but she can't get over the hump, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I mean, Edge of Extinction, she just got ran off the fucking beach by new players, and I don't know what she brings.
Right. She's one where I think she's just a production favorite, and they probably see a lot of discourse surrounding her online and in the community, so they're like, we should bring her back. But like you were saying, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah, not much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd say like either very top of 2 or 2 and 3, or the bottom.
I was gonna
of
put
4 or
her
5.
bottom of 4.
Okay, yeah. We'll put her behind the Dragon Slayer.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm more excited to see him there.
Yeah.
Next is Chrissy.
Chris, you want to go first for Chris? You haven't gone first. No.
I'm excited for Chrissy. I think she's one of the people who we said she's in that era of like a ton of people who didn't get a chance to play again, and she is one of the women you gotta have on a returnee season, in my opinion. I think she's like 8-9 Suri territory, like high up, and like for a completely different reason than Suri. They're like almost opposite reasons. But like she needs another chance to play again, and she deserves it. So I think she's like 8 or 9.
Yeah, I would put Chrissy in the same spot. I think that there's a lot of what ifs surrounding Chrissy, because it was the first season of Final Four Firemaking. It was a surprise. She would have went to the Final 3 with Devin and Ryan, and I've seen people dig into it. I think Devin still probably wins, but she's still like an undeniable character from the kind of mid-30s era of Survivor. I think really like the post Game Changers, like that's almost its own new era in and of itself.
That's when we started. It's the reality gurus beginnings.
That's true, and she is kind of was breaking ground there. 4 immunities, tied for most by a woman. Like, yeah, I think I might even put her ahead of Suri. I think it's high. Her return is highly anticipated, I think.
Yes, I agree. Next is a person probably gathering the most buzz out of anyone on this cast, Mr. Mike White.
Yeah, Mike. I think for me, it's so if he didn't have the White Lotus, I think people would be like, "Why is he here?" Like Mike, undeniably in a vacuum, is everything that you want in a Survivor player. He's really good at the game. He's funny in confessional. He's funny in like the passing moments of like he'll talk to Jeff and stuff. Like he really is a full package of entertainment, and all with a uh, a good read on a good self awareness. That's the word I'm looking for. And like for me, I think most people are probably like 6 or 7 on Mike. I'm like a 9 on Mike. I love Mike.
Me too. I've seen, like I said, I've seen the most buzz about his name over the past like week or so, as it was rumored that he might be coming back. That
I
like
think he was a late ad.
as
Yeah,
opposed to anyone. And I think it is because of everyone. Like, White Lotus was big since season one, but like it really exploded this last season that they released. And I'm shocked that he said yes. I'm sure they asked him to.
yeah,
I'm shocked that he said yes. I would maybe. I think he is above Suri, below Chrissy, probably just to give
yep.
Chrissy
That's exactly where I was
to
going
give
for.
Chrissy some respect.
Yeah,
Put some
I agree
respect
with
on
that.
it.
And that's also to not. I think there's a chance the top 3 people might have been David versus Goliath if I didn't do that. So
Uh, Angelina is next.
yeah, Angelina. So the ultimate sign of respect I can give Angelina is that while her season was going on, you and I had the ultimate bitch fest about Angelina. We hated Angelina. She was so fucking annoying. But very shortly after,
Natalie, your jacket.
yeah, very shortly after, it was just undeniable to me that she needed to come back. She is a great character. She is kind of goofy and kind of like maybe doesn't quite have the right like self image of herself. But I think she is a person where if she really reflected on how she comes across like last time,
Mm-hmm.
and she learns to find the like she always knows when to act, but the execution is always great. Like there's fine tunings that could happen with Angelina that I think she could actually be a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she was a good player, but I think she
Yeah.
could be a winner contender.
Well,
But regardless of that, she's a 10 for me. I don't know.
I was gonna say that, like, if she comes back and makes those adjustments, uh, Emily speed ran Angelina development
Yeah.
just over the course of one season. But I think Angelina, I would also put her in the 8-9 tier, but you can put her in 10. I'm happy to put her up there. But
Thank you.
yeah, I would probably
She's
personally put her below Mike White, but I almost put Mike White and Chrissy at 10, but I can't put everyone at 10. So
yeah. And she's about to get some company. I think this is a
oh yeah, yeah. Christian
is a
is next.
unanimous.
That's a unanimous 10. I think he might be the most unanimous 10 for the Survivor community
Mhm.
ever.
That's one of those where like so I'll agree I agree with a lot of the I think like this portion that we're looking at right here it's all kind of besides Aubrey it's like it's earlier. I mean, I don't want to lump Steph into this. Like these 5 right here. It's kind of earlier players where they're just I think it's kind of swing and miss decisions considering some of the people that you could be bringing back. Um because aside from I guess like there are a couple real legends on here, but real legends that we don't need to see again. Yeah,
I guess, like, for a lot of those older people, or people from older seasons, I should say, like, you would like to bring them back and say, like, okay, you guys are probably Survivor super fans, you've watched every season in the game. What have you learned since you've played that you're going to bring to this game to change your game? And I just think most of the time they're just the same player. Like, they don't
right.
really change as much. So, like, in a vacuum, you're like, oh, yeah, I wonder how, like, Steph has changed her game since she last played, but like, are we just gonna get the same Steph? You know?
Mm, right.
which is what happens most of the time with returnees from like a long time ago. Which is why like you have these returnee seasons and you kind of keep them in brackets of like people who play like in the same style because it's the same era of Survivor.
Right.
But I mean, Christian, I don't. Do we even have anything to say about him? Like he's the most
Yeah.
like home run
Oh,
bring. I'm worried that he isn't gonna live up to it.
I think if he just is himself, he still will be. I'm worried that he'll get targeted. I think he's going to be like an early merge kind of. Not to. I'm going to have a whole thing about where I think everybody will finish, but I think he's like early merge. Like it's just he's just not going to go deep. But I kind of cut myself off actually. But the reason why I brought up, they're kind of being a dead space with the early decisions. People are not giving Survivor enough credit for. There were a couple that were on a tee, and it's like, just fucking hit it. And they really hit it.
Yeah.
And like Christian, Angelina, Chrissy, I would lump Mike into that. And I think there's a couple more people we're going to talk about that it's like, yeah, they're like, I don't see how you hit on people like that. Like, how do you see Angelina as so obvious to bring back and you don't see Carolyn?
Right.
I just don't get that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we got at least one of them.
Yeah. We can probably talk about biggest misses at the end too if you want to, but I think Carolyn might be the top of that list.
Yeah. For me, she is number one, actually.
Next is another home run, I would say, in Rick Devens.
Yeah. So, Rick, I get it. I was never like a huge Devins guy. It was almost like it was just like I was laughing along with the fact of like this is so wacky that this guy is just doing all this. Like,
Yeah.
I'm probably like a 5 on Devins, but
I'm higher on him.
yeah, I was gonna say you're probably higher, and
I'm a Devens
like,
guy, I think.
yeah,
I would put him in the 8 to 9. I don't know if I'd go all the way to the 10 for him, but he is someone that I feel like he captivated that season in the audience that season, along with Jeff and production that season, where like he was like not only like we talk about like who are we seeing this season, whose eyes are we seeing this season through, like who's the narrator of the season. He was not only the narrator of the confessionals, but in out of confessional moments he literally narrated at Tribal.
that's true. Yeah, I'm fine with putting him at the end there.
That's
I'll
good, yeah.
concede that.
Okay, but
I know I'm in the I don't know how small the minority is there, I guess, but yeah, I know I'm in the minority there.
next is Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan. I wonder if Ozzy was just cast so that they could get like a Jonathan versus Ozzy, like who's the best challenge? Like they want to talk about that for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Jonathan is one that when he was on, I was like, man, if he was an old school Survivor, people would love him. But he's like kind of a jerk, and like people aren't gonna like him. And then I feel like, especially like the Survivor Twitter, like that, it has a very specific kind of personality that's not conducive to liking someone like Jonathan. And I was surprised that every time I would see when people were like New Era All Stars, like he was always on there, and no one ever really argued it. And then I was just kind of resigned to the fact of like, I guess the read was wrong. Like I get it if people want him back. And now when he's on here, everybody fucking hates it again.
Well, like, I guess maybe everyone had the same opinion as us, because I had the same opinion of you. It's like, he's kind of like a little bit of a jerk and like doesn't really fit with the era. But like, so I don't know. I'm not like excited to see him play again. He is someone who is active. Like he goes to like the Survivor like community like meet. Like he was at the Nashville event. Like he does that thing, which you wouldn't think he would, either. So like I don't know how to read him, to be honest. I would put him at like I'm not really excited to see him at all, to be honest. Like 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think I put him ahead of Ozzy and Colby just because he's only played once, and I guess I'd rather see somebody play a second time, then I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna want to move one of them to 1 before we finish this.
Yeah.
Just a heads up.
I think it might be Colby, to be honest.
Yeah, I
The
think
more
so
we talk
too.
about it.
Yeah,
Emily is next. I think I'm a little higher on Emily than you, potentially.
yeah. You go first then.
Yeah, I think off the rip, I'd put her in like 6, 7, probably. And the reason for that is I think she is someone who you can't tell the story of 45 without her. And I think that is a good reason to recast someone. She was, again, she's like someone who was like, everyone had takes about her. She's very captivating for the audience, which I think is a good, inherently good trait to have if you're recasting, like, or casting a returnee season, is people had opinions about her, right? Whether they were good or bad, you want people to feel some way about the people you're casting. I feel as though her story has been told, though. Like, she's one where I'm like, all right, she arced.
Yeah,
That's the end. But however, though, I do think she's a good player. So like, it's a good cast because people feel a way about her, good or bad, and I think she's a good player. So those are two good reasons I think that you should recast her. However, I don't know what something I'm going to see from her that I haven't seen already or that I want to see that I felt like I was missing. So I think for that reason, I'd give her like 6. I would give her a 6, I think.
yeah. I'm definitely lower. I agree with you that like the story has been told, and I think where I'd push back on that is, so yeah, she is someone that people felt strongly one way or the other, but I would argue that didn't even last the whole season. I feel like she was just a well-liked person by
Mhm.
the end, and I think a lot of the divisiveness came from her first like 3 weeks or so
Mhm.
on the show.
Which is
Um,
a new archetype that we're developing.
yeah, that's true. Um, and I don't know. I would argue that like you can tell the story of her season without her actually,
Really?
because I think that there definitely is a chunk that it's like the her and Caleb and their starting tribe is a disaster, and like that whole kind of thing. Um, but yeah, I just don't like the post merge. It was just so dominated by D and her alliance, and like right as Emily was maybe gaining some winter steam, she got idled out. Like I don't know that she even really had that much. I'm like a 3 on Emily, maybe.
We
I
can
might even be lower.
we could compromise and put her at the end of 4 if you want to.
Yeah, I'll put her ahead of Aubrey. But yeah, I don't know. I've never been a big Emily person, and like I get it, but at the same time, I think it's overblown still, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get that.
Hmm.
Totally get that opinion. D is next.
Yeah, I think D's about a 6 for me
I agree.
because I think that she is. I think you could argue about like how good of a player, how good of a win between like her, Kyle, Jam Jam, Marianne, like that whole crew, but um yeah, I think it's one of the few new era games that could measure up to some of the big games that have been played. But she also had some glaring holes, so I'm not going to say that she is a perfect player by any means, but um yeah, I don't know how I feel about a win. Like her and Kyle being the only two winners.
Right. That's how I
I'm
feel. Like,
I'm worried that they're walking into a bad
again,
situation.
this is a casting mistake, I think, like for the theme of the season. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think there should have been any winners on this because of how big the pool of people is who haven't played a second time. To pick someone who's won already, I think is a mistake. And I'm gonna dock D for that, and for the reasons that you said. Like, I think she probably played the best. I think she's the best new era winner, personally. Um,
Hmm.
that being said, I just don't think she fits in the season.
Yeah. I think I'd put her like behind Steph.
I would agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I was going, somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah.
Uh, The next home run. Q. The Q
Yeah.
skirt. He was a
Yeah.
must have.
Yeah, Q, there was somebody in my comments the other day that they were complaining about Q and they said that he's boring.
What?
And
What?
I don't he's not you could say a lot of things about Q. He is not boring. He's a soundbite machine.
Everything he says is a clip. Literally everything.
Yeah.
We'd like a clip a season or a clip a episode from him.
Yeah.
I don't understand that at all. I'd put him.
If you're going to go against Q, you could cancel Christmas.
You could I still say that you could cancel Christmas.
You do say that a lot. And there's a lot of other Q moments that are just like he was putting out heat so regularly.
And
That, like the floating doghouse challenge where they're playing the alphabet game,
Yeah.
which like if there was one reason to cast Charlie, it's him
With
reading
Q.
the room and being like, I'm gonna fuck this up on purpose. Fuck with Q. But yeah, Q is a 10 for me.
I agree, and like the whole like storyline of him like wanting to quit and then like not quitting and then people being upset because he wanted to quit. Like I
Yeah.
like, and you don't really know how much of that is fake and real. Like in Q's Heart of Hearts, did he actually want to quit or was he fucking with everyone? Like I don't know.
I think yeah. I was gonna try to speculate, not yeah. Never
You
mind.
go to speculate about it and you're like, well, I don't. You could like convince yourself either way. Like that's like a whole sub storyline of his whole thing is like, and then like pissing off Liz constantly.
Yeah.
Like I feel like he was electric. If he can like gather half as much like I don't know interest in this season, like that's a win. I think.
Yeah.
I'm like, if he really wanted to quit, he wouldn't have got cast on this season.
That's true. Yeah.
Charlie is next.
Yeah, Charlie
The winner
to
who never
me.
was.
Yeah, I'm not super high on Charlie. This is one of those where, like if you're looking at the oversaturation of, I think there's 11 people between, what is it, 45?
45
Yeah.
to 49. There's
From
11.
45 to 49, there's 11.
Yeah.
And it feels like you could probably cut half these people. That's why I feel like one of Emily or D for sure should not
Yeah.
be here. I think Q is a must have. I really like Genevieve. I don't think we need Charlie.
I agree.
If you're gonna put a like so close yet so far winner, Dominic Abate has been there for almost a decade now. I
Yep.
don't understand. He was never rumored. I guess I don't know that if he really wants to play again, but there was for a while, like him and Christian were the two that it was like these two guys got to come back, and he's a nice enough guy. I don't want
This is
to.
you should have won pity cast, I believe.
Yeah. Here's try number 2.
Yeah.
You could try to make up the $900,000.
Yeah. I'm not super excited to see him play again. I understand why they cast him though.
Yeah. I think like right here.
Yeah, probably behind Aubrey. I'd put Aubrey in.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Tiffany? Like 3 people from 46 is crazy, right?
Yeah, speaking of misses, I mean, I just don't understand it. I think Tiffany was somebody that in the first half of 46 we enjoyed and we were pretty excited to see like how far she could take it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the fizzle out, it was, especially if Q's on here, considering that they had a feud by the end of it, like, I don't think that's needed. And, like, okay, looking at this cast, so if you look at just New Era, right? New Era women, we have D, we have Emily, we have now Tiffany, we'll talk about Camilla and Genevieve.
Mm-hmm.
5 New Era women, and Carolyn and Shan both aren't there. Like,
Right.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Mhm.
That just does not make any sense to me. I would Keep Genevieve, Camilla, and I'd probably cut all three of the other three, to be honest, and I'd do Shan, and I would do
I'd cut the other three
Carolyn.
if you told me I got one of those two. One of Carolyn or Shan. I'd cut
Yeah,
all three of the other ones for one of them.
right, just for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would do that. Yeah, Tiffany, it's kind of mean, but like I think she might be a one for me. I
I
don't get it.
wholeheartedly agree. I don't understand the cast at all.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, three people. Man, that's what I was saying. It's like the production favorites, and then like heavy from the past 4 seasons, and like
Yeah, like what?
we're missing like tons of people from the late 30s, tons of people from the early 40s. Like they didn't cast anyone from 41, 43, 44.
Yeah, and like the fact that those seasons are told through the eyes of like Ricard, Shan, Jesse, Cody, like even Cassidy, I wouldn't have hated to see probably. Um, Carolyn. If you're gonna put winners, Jam Jam, I feel like is a good
Mm-hmm.
pick. Like, man, I don't know. All right, let's keep going.
Genevieve.
Yeah, Jenna. I mean, my love for Genevieve is well known.
Harv Light.
Yeah, Parv Light. I would put her. I think she's either right before or right after Mike White for me. I think that she is. I think a force of a player.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I'm scared of is this whole arc that she got into right at the end, where I think she was just playing the game at the beginning, and then she got she got punched in the mouth strategically, and it made her like rethink her entire philosophy on the game, and she got much more into the like emotional side, which you definitely need to tap into. You need to make real
Mm-hmm.
connections, but I felt like it almost went too far where she almost started to adopt a very early survivor mentality of like I don't want to be a bad person out here.
Right.
And I don't love that, but I think if she harnesses that and is able to use it to play a more well-rounded game and she still has the killer instinct, Genevieve's very high for me.
I was gonna put her at the top of the 6-7 tier. Is where I would have her.
Okay.
I like Devons and Suri a lot. I would put her
Hmm.
like kind like I don't think anyone could get higher in the 6-7 tier than her.
Yeah. Can we put her one ahead of Devon's just for the screenshot?
What
I
if we
think
put
the
Devons at the top of 6-7 and her at the back of 8-9?
Okay. I'll do that. Yeah. Just for the screenshot, people will like that more.
Yeah.
Just a heads up.
Yeah, yeah. Um let's see. Who's next? Joe. I think this is a miss.
Yeah, Joe's a one for me.
He's a
I
one
think.
for me as well. I don't understand. I mean, this is so obviously a Jeff pick
Yeah.
that like I don't understand. He is someone who is like, how could he possibly play a different game than he just did when he went on a tirade about this is who I am and I couldn't possibly play any different. And you know, what do you want out of your returning seasons if not the status quo? You know, you
Yeah, I think
just want everyone to play the exact same game.
yeah, he's like I mean, dude, he even looks like Dominic. Like fucking how is this not Dominic?
Yeah, I know.
Like I just yeah, I think like the whole disconnect around Survivor 48, like when 47 happened and Jeff was like, "Don't worry, there's a better like this next season's fucking awesome." Like I think Joe is the personification of that disconnect between like what Jeff thinks is great Survivor and what the Survivor fans want
Right.
in the year 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And I think kind of how like I broke down the women of the new era, like okay, you look at Joe, you look at Jonathan, you look at Charlie, like, and I might even lump Kyle in here of like, these are, yeah, these are three guys where like I wasn't the biggest like Jesse stan, but I'd take Jesse over, yeah, a lot of these guys,
too.
and there's, yeah, I don't know, there's the the pool is so deep for men.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know why we need to reach for Joe.
Right. Camilla.
Yeah, Camilla. Camilla, I think is somewhere in like 6-7 for me.
I agree. I think that you gotta have a couple people. Like it feels so like after having no returnee seasons for so long. I'm like, they just played. Why are they playing again? Because we haven't had it for so long. Where you have like a returnee season where you're just bringing people right back. Camilla kind of falls. Both the next Camilla and the next person fall into this category. But like, I'm like, I'd like to see them, but like in like 6 seasons. Like I don't need to see them.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll like get a little higher on her as we move forward. But like, I mean, yeah, definitely deserves like another chance to play. Like the everyone basically just said that she deserved to win if she was there, or they would have voted for her to win if she was
Hmm.
there. So yeah, I'm kind of like interested to see. I mean, I guess she doesn't have to play without Kyle if she doesn't want to, but interesting
Yeah,
to
I
cast
think
them both.
Yeah, I think that Camilla, if they do two tribes, I think the reason why they got to 24 is I think they want to do three tribes of eight. And I
Hmm.
would imagine they split these three up. But I'd be like, she would have to be on the same tribe as Joe, right? Because you don't want to put Kyle with either one of them, I would
Right.
say, if it was a two tribe person.
Hmm.
But so, yeah, Camilla, I think, is one of those where when you play this close back to back, like you look at Russell, you look at Amanda, like people who have played back to back, or at least two very close, or like even coached, like in
Hmm.
Heroes versus Villains I was talking about before. He qualifies for this, where you'll see them come in playing like the same kind of game essentially. And Camilla, I think, luckily, if she plays the same game, it'll be good because it's sound gameplay. She has great sound bites in confessional,
Hmm.
and she's fun and funny. And the list of new era fourth place finishers is it's a decently impressive group, and I'm glad there's some representation from that because I think yeah, I like Camilla. I'd put her either right behind or in front of Steph. I think
Yeah, I'd put her behind Steph, I think.
behind Steph. Yeah, I think she's definitely at a D though. I think Kyle's our last one.
Again, this is the same thing. I just don't think winners fit on this season. Nothing against Kyle. Kyle played a good game. We just talked his game up for 45 minutes. Uh, I don't know. It's just 48 doesn't seem like it deserved 3 players on this season. We said Joe didn't really deserve it. I think Camilla is. I mean, I really think Shaheen is the pick for this season.
Yeah, I would get rid of Joe and Kyle, and I would put Shaheen on.
I agree. I can't believe that he. I don't know. I don't know how far he made it into casting or what, but to me, he was the returnee player of the season,
Hmm.
especially with how he influenced Final Tribal.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
think that, I mean, not to talk about Sheen the entire time where Kyle's up and after he won the game, but like I just don't think this is a season for winners. They don't fit to me.
yeah. I think Kyle. I like him as a person. I think the gameplay is sound, but like I mean, we just kind of had a whole discourse this season about how boring the season was, and it was because things went exactly according to this guy's plan, right? So I think Kyle, I'd put him like the top of the 4 or 5 tier because I like him, and I'm not anti for sure. But I don't know that we need it really.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same spot. I think. Yeah,
So I think there we have. Is
there.
there anybody that you really feel like needs to move?
Um, Let me look through it really quick. I don't think so. 4-5 seems a little heavy.
Yeah, like Kyle and Charlie don't feel like the same tier.
I
Kyle might be a
Kyle might be 6-7.
back at 6-7.
Yeah,
Yeah, if D's up there.
yeah. Yeah, maybe we put him 6-7 so we have both the winners in the same tier because we kind of have the same logic for both of them.
Yeah,
That feels better, I think.
and it looks like a pyramid
It,
now, so
true. Normal distribution.
that's true. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think the overarching point is like, yeah, I don't know where you cut it to where you say like good casting versus bad casting. I think it's I think it's here. I think it's 6, 7, and up. These are all good choices, and it's just D and Kyle are winners, and so for that reason, we probably wouldn't want them again. Um, See, like coach works more if it's like a legends, like a true legends season.
Right.
Like if you're getting like winners at war level, but it's like it's just characters, not only winners. But like on in a group like this, I mean, it's gonna feel like if he's Tony in Game Changers, I'm not shocked at all.
Yeah.
Like that could definitely happen.
It's just like what I was saying before about like for a season that's supposed to be about the fans choosing. Like a lot of these picks don't feel like fan picks.
Yeah, I can't believe it wasn't a vote. And the worst part about what you just said is they're not so out of touch. Like we know from all of the leaks, a lot of people that were very sought after by the fans got really deep. Sean Rector made it really deep. Rob Sesternino, really deep. Penner was a last second cut. Like there's I guess Penner he might not be like super beloved, but like and then there's the worst part too is there's like rumors about like 2 days ago I heard that Coach got put on last minute because they called him again because Penner was on the season and he had some health issue and they had to replace him and Coach was like fine I guess like if you're asking me for the fourth time, but it actually turns out Coach just changed his mind and they bounced Penner for it,
Which is wild.
which sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think they I just sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna like quickly go through like some misses. Like we talked about Carolyn and Dominic. Let me what do we say seasons that like 41, 43, 44. Let me look at the cast list quickly.
Yeah, I mean like 41 I wouldn't put him on here, but I've always been a big Deshaun guy.
I think he's pretty pissed about that. I don't know if he'd want to play.
Yeah,
I like
agreed.
like Xander even.
I'm surprised he wasn't. He seems like someone they would love.
Ricard again, like I would love to see Ricard probably. Shan's the real pick from that season, but we talked about her already.
Yeah.
If I go to 43, who do we have from here? Gotta have Gabler back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even I know Jonathan's here from 42, but 42, Omar and Marianne are both, I think, big misses if you're going new era people.
Omer, yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Like if you go new era winners, Marianne's got to be on there, I think. And if you're not going new era winners, I think Omer. Even if there are winners, I'd go Omer.
Yeah, I mean Jesse. We talked about him from 43.
Yeah,
Is a miss. Carolyn.
Carolyn, it's so egregious.
Carolyn is especially she was the face of the traders.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this list, she would be a 10 for me personally.
Me too.
I think like Angelina and Chrissy, I think you could argue between the three of them who the best casting is, or who it would be if Carolyn was on there. I think she clears every other female on here, even Sari,
I agree.
in terms of who I'd want to see.
Yes, I agree completely.
And I think that's like even if you look at some of the earlier seasons, or like just in general, these kind of lower tiers, the worst part is if you look at people from the same era, like people have been clamoring for Sean Rector for a long time. Like I thought he should have been on All Stars. Like I kind of think it's crazy to think of like the ripple effect of this, but he's a better pick for Marquesas than Boston Rob. I like almost I would die on that hill, I think. And I get Micronesia wasn't it wasn't pre All Stars debutees, and then he doesn't really fit into Heroes vs Villains, and he kind of gets lost in the shuffle. But yeah, like I would absolutely replace Colby with Sean. I would absolutely replace Colby with Sesternino. I know he got kind of deep. I'd even like I. There's no way Jeff would ever do it, but like Fair Play is a great choice from this era as well, especially because he comes back one time with he shows up with a broken jaw and gets driven into the boat on day one by Yao Man, and it's like, speaking of Yao Man, I would replace like the Aussie coach era, like Earl. If you're gonna put winners on, I know he was a late scratch from Winners at War. Like, yeah, James Clement, I don't know where he fits in here. He is one of the underrated players in the history of Survivor. I would find a place for James on here. And same era, but like Amanda. I know, I don't. It sounded like she might have voluntarily dropped out. Maybe she dropped, or maybe they cut her. I don't know, but like one of these new era people could walk for fucking Kimmel. I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple people here who like I have no problem cutting for
Yeah, and even
much of
like
anyone.
this is fan service and not even me because this is a player I am not as high on as the rest of the community. Where's Kelly Wentworth? Like,
Yeah.
isn't she a slam dunk for this? Like,
And like she is talk about active in the Survivor community.
yeah, she's like the poster child for the fans.
yeah,
right now.
yeah. Like I see her TikToks constantly about like answering questions about like life on the island and stuff like all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I think she's a great ambassador to the fans about the game.
Yeah, wild.
And even like Borneo, dude. I would create the most devious cast of all time if I could. If it could just be like everyone has to say yes.
hmm
Like, I know there's problems with bringing him back, but like Hatch is a guy I would put on in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
I'd love to see like 60-year-old Hatch on here.
Who do you think would be like Hatch with who does he would be the craziest pairing from this list? If you'd be like, man, I can't believe Hatch and this person from this cast are on the same beach right now.
I feel like the easy answer is Q,
Yeah.
but Hatch is like I feel like his superpower was that like he's able to level with people who are unlevelable.
Right.
Like, I mean, I know everything happened with him and Sue and All Stars, and it's not funny. But the fact that the two of them get together in Borneo, like the the mental fortitude it takes to wrangle in Sue Hawk and work with her for 39 days.
Yeah.
That's beyond me. That is a skill. I think. I honestly, Colby is going to be a great culture shock. Like, I want to see Colby and Q in a room together. And I would like it transcribed.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like Hatch kind of does harness the Q of it all.
Yeah.
Like he takes that and
They'd be aligned.
oh, for sure. I agree with that 100%. Like I think yeah, I don't know who it would be like who he would go at who Hatch would go at it with. To be honest,
Oh, speaking of Q,
him and Christian would be interesting. That'd be an interesting dynamic.
yeah. Speaking of Q, I'd cut Charlie and Tiffany from that season to bring in Venus.
Oh yeah, yeah.
If you're just going like entertaining new era players,
Has that
she's
ever
there.
been floated like bad at the game but very entertaining people? Just a whole cast of them.
Yeah, I mean that's just like Survivor Gabon. It's like or maybe not. Some of them aren't super entertaining, they're just like dickheads, but
Like pre-merge only, like Banu, a whole cast of Banu.
yeah, there was they posted that it was several hours until the thing, and everyone's like, Jelinski confirmed. And I was like, brother, if I wake up and Jelinski is on this cast, it's over.
Do you think Bono got a call at all?
I do.
Do you think so? You think he was a first round?
I think they cast a really wide net, especially with the new era people
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning. Because if you're thinking of, they're whittling down, there's what, 12? There will be 12 new era people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to get to 12, you got to be at like 20 and 40, and like
Yeah,
at a certain point, you're calling like half the people.
yeah, right. I think Bono's on that list. Him begging on his knees.
Yeah, okay. If I could I saw someone, and I know a lot of these tweets are jokes and stuff, but someone was like, the moment that solidified this queen on, and it was, they're talking about Tiffany when Banu gets on his knees and begs to her, and she's like, stand up. I'm like, dude, he's the moment. What do you mean? Like, how
That's
is that
rage bait.
Tiffany?
That's
Like,
such rage bait.
that is rage bait, and I bit on right now, but like, fucking Bonnet. Dude, if he was here, oh my god.
He just talk about people who don't fit. If you like the regular cast take out like Joe for Bono, like that'd be fucking wild.
Yeah. Yeah, talk about mentioned the original Timbira tribe on Survivor Tocantins. The fact that in six-person tribes we got Q and Banu together
I know.
is outrageous. Q, Banu, and the winner of the season.
Yeah.
Insane.
All right. I don't think I have anything else.
I think that about does it. So yeah, we'll stay on the lookout. I think we're gonna do some every once in a while stuff on here. I might want to do some like some Survivor 50 deep dives, kind of the way I did with 40. But yeah, we'll see. And we also, you and I have talked about maybe doing the Dave Survivor journey, maybe like once a month.
Yeah,
Deals.
we're part of the way through Marquesas right now. We're post-merge Marquesas.
Yeah, so as you work through, the kind of like old school Survivor, I think
what
that'd
I
be
might
fun.
pose to Alyssa is to watch the seasons of the people who we both haven't seen on 50.
Yeah. So you haven't seen Coach, you haven't seen Ozzy.
I've never seen.
You haven't seen Steph play Survivor.
I haven't seen Sari play Survivor either.
Ooh.
Or I did, but that was before I watched with you. It was before I would watch casually and like miss episodes and stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
There's some great. I mean, Tocantins, as far as newbies go, it's an all timer.
Right.
Micronesia, you'd get Ozzy, you'd get Sari, and you'd get like Parv and Amanda. And so that Micronesia's a great one.
Yeah, Alyssa's just like, she wants to watch it in order so she has all the lore. She doesn't want to like jump to something and then them say like, oh, remember when this happened in this season? She's like, I don't know what they're talking about. You know, she wants to watch like all of it.
They're pretty compartmentalized. Also, one that nobody really. Oh, this fits your thing of bad gameplay but just entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Exile Island, Cerise's maiden season.
Mm-hmm.
It is the most dysfunctional crew of people. Oh, that's somebody. If I could just get on a soapbox real quick for Terry Dietz, if we want to cut, Ozzy, Colby, well, like somebody like that. Terry Dietz, he was a flawed player in Panama, comes back in second chances, gets voted in by the fans. We want to see Terry Dietz again, and leaves the game because his son was like potentially dying, and never comes back. How does that guy not come back for Game Changers? And how does he not get very deep into casting, at least for this, unless he just doesn't want to?
Mm-hmm.
Because I really felt like older, like middle-aged dad Terry Dietz was a really good player.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could just get on a soapbox for Terry Dietz for a moment. But yeah, Panama, that is one of my other all-time favorite characters that I can't believe isn't on here. Although I think he might have said no. Shane Powers, he got jerked around a lot. He got cut from Heroes versus Villains for Russell when Russell played the season directly before in the cycle. So he was like on Heroes versus Villains, cut. I think he got cut from Karamoan too, which is outrageous if you look at that fucking crew that they got. But yeah, I know he's been very close and cut a couple times, and it's pretty ridiculous. But I could talk about one-off scenarios like that for forever, so we might as well close it up there. I posed this to you earlier as, do you want to talk about season 50 for like 10 minutes?
Yeah, it's been an hour.
Yeah.
We could just cut this into 2 episodes and release them separately.
We kind of could, yeah. And but I mean Survivor 50 is here and now, so I don't know. Might want to.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I think that's going to do it for us. So, thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you all next time.